Hey everyone. So now I'm going to show you some ways you can use the instrument editor. And I think I'm just going to show you some examples from my own music and arrangements and explain what's happening. So in this tune here, I have this bass line in SFX 25. So as it stands, this is what it sounds like. And one of my favorite features in the instrument editor is getting notes that are lower than C0 and higher than D#5. So in this tune, I didn't really like the way that the bass line was placed. I wanted to get it lower, and I can't get any lower than C0, and I can't get G#-1. So this is the best I could do with the regular instruments. But if I use the instrument editor, what I can do, so here I'm using instrument 0. So if we go down to instrument 0, what I've done is I've just looped this sound, but you'll notice that where I've got the sound tuned at C0 rather than C2. So now the sound sounds like this. So that's too low. So what I can do, I'm just going to put this up the octave like this. And that to me sounds a lot better. So just for fun, I'll show you how you can get sounds that are higher. You just do the opposite. You just take this and let's just move it up to C4. So now everything's going to be 2 octaves higher than normal. And let's just see what this will sound like. And we'll be able to put this really high. Yes, pitches are getting distorted, but you get the idea. You really have an expanded range of pitches that you can use with the instrument editor. In this example, I've created a bunch of different loop sounds that are all slightly different. This is an arrangement of a Bach convention. I'll just play it very quickly so you get an idea of some of the sounds I'm using. So I'm just using this sound, and just by having the volume oscillate between 7 and 5 creates a sound that you normally can't get with the other instruments. And so I took that sound and I just created different variations on it. So then let's see here. So then you get something like this. So instruments 4 and 5 is very similar to the other instruments. Now here I've combined instrument 1 and 0. And what I found what I was doing a lot was playing around with those kinds of sounds, or changing the loop point, changing the speed. So now then when we go back here, this was going to sound weird. Yeah, that sounds really weird. This is an arrangement of another Bach convention, but what I've done is I've played with the loop points. So the loop point is at 2 and 5. So what you can do before the loop point is create some kind of attack. So this is kind of a percussive attack. I'm using instrument 6 and 3 to give a percussive attack. And this is kind of like a way to use pitch to attack the note, if that's the best way to describe this, what's happening here. So I've got this little attack here, and then we've got some pitch bends that are eventually landing on the note here. So in here, this is another loop where at the end of the loop, we have the note moving up by 2 semitones. So see what some of this sounds like. Yeah, so you can hear in instrument 20 here that each note kind of has this attack that you can't get with the normal instruments. I think at some point I use instrument 2. Yeah, so here's where I use instrument 2, which is the one that is curving up in pitch. So that would be somewhere around here. Here's a fun example. When you put effect 1 on the first row, the sound slides up from C2 to the actual note of the row. So I slowed the tempo down to create a really long slide, and it sounds really cool when it's playing along with the note of a melody. Let's see if I can find it here. There's the example there. So you can hear that the note is staying the same, but I'm calling instrument 0, and it's got that very slow slide up. I had to play around with the speed and the timing of it a little bit, but it does create a cool effect that you can't get normally. So here's music I wrote for a game where I used some of the game sound effects as melodic and percussive embellishments. Up to this point, I think I've only shown you ways to use the instrument editor with loop sounds, but you can also use them as one-shots. So here's a few sound effects from this game. And I tried to find ways to incorporate them into the actual game. So here you can see sound effect. You can see instrument 0 here is calling this sound, and instrument 5 is calling this sound. Right, I'm kind of using it as a percussive thing, so it sounds like this. The other reason I like the instrument editor is because normally here in sound effect 28, if I want some kind of percussive hit, normally my only option would be instrument 6. But it doesn't have quite the same sound. It's a little bit too long. I didn't really like that sound. But with the new instrument editor, you can create shorter percussive sounds that kind of work better as a whoops, this is supposed to be instrument 5. Work better as a kind of hi-hat sound. The other thing I did, I remember I was using, I believe, instrument 6 as other percussive sounds. I mean, I don't think I ended up using it because it was getting in the way of the actual game. But I always try to fit these in now as little embellishments of what's going on. I might make this quieter and maybe fade it out. And then this one, maybe I'll use this up a third. Yeah, that sounds pretty neat. And I can do the same thing down here, except fade out, and lower volume. So the last thing I'm going to show you is another way you can use the instrument editor. So what I've done is I've arranged the Super Mario theme, but I've put the music in slots 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that means that when I create a new sound effect in a different slot here, I can call this music by using C2. So I can do the same thing here, except there's going to be instrument 1. Same thing here, instrument 2, instrument 3. And let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it's close. So now you can do crazy things like change the pitches. You can maybe change the pitches at different spots. You can, let's make everything really low. So let's make this all C1 and see what that sounds like. Yeah, that sounds crazy. Or really high. Let's make it C3 and copy that over. And then you could do the same thing over here, except use, let's use 12, 13, 14, and 15. And we're going to use sound effect 4, sound effect 5, 6, and 7. So let's go into sound effect 12, and I'm going to put on 4, and I'm just going to draw stuff around. This is going to sound really strange. So let's keep this C2 on a few of them. That's crazy. Anyway, so they kind of act as like these macro controls, and you can create more crazy music patterns. I've had some ideas of creating some more interesting ambient effects. Like you can take one of the instrument editors and slow the tempo right down to a certain speed, and then have that called at another slow speed. Like there's so many different things that you can do with the instrument editor, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can use it and create your own sounds. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below and stay tuned for the next video.